Mr. Smucker, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad we're holding this hearing. I think as we engage on implementing tax policy over the next few months and year, it's very important to understand the impacts of the TCJA and the impact that had on the economy and on the American people. And we're hearing again some tired arguments today about the TCJA that are just simply false. We've heard that the TCJA made the tax code more progressive. That's false. We heard that the TCJA benefited the rich at the expense of middle-income America. That is false. And I have, Mr. Chairman, a chart from the IRS that I would like to submit into the record.
Without objection.
And I'd like to explore a little of this here today. This is essentially a chart comparing, it's directly from the IRS, 2017 tax returns filed compared to 2018 tax returns filed. And there's some striking results here. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, 2018, of course, the first year the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act went into effect, reduced average effective income tax rates for filers in every one of the IRS's income tax brackets, every one, with the largest benefits going to the lowest and middle income households. So, for instance, in the $40,000 to $50,000 income range, there were about 12 million returns. The average tax paid by them was reduced by 18%. In the $10,000 to $15,000 range, the average tax rate paid was reduced by 71%. As opposed to the top 1%, they also saw a reduction, but much, much less. They saw a reduction of less than 5%. So the benefits most certainly accrued to the lowest income earners, and everyone, or every class at least, maybe not everyone within that class, but every class saw a reduction in their taxes paid over their taxes in 2017. We also saw, of course, the poverty level reach the lowest ever in the history of the country. So the poor were lifted out of poverty. One of the interesting things of this chart as well is that we saw upward mobility as the result of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So for instance, the number of individuals in the $1,000 to $25,000 earnings bracket was decreased by more than 2 million filers per year. So that many people moved up in their earnings. And the highest increase in earnings, over 1 million filers, was in the $100,000 to $200,000 range. They essentially moved up from the lower earnings and were earning more and paying less taxes. So, you know, the American people didn't believe Democrats last session when they said this, you know, when they looked at how they felt after 4 years of the Biden administration compared to 4 years of the Trump administration, they understood that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act benefited them. They saw the impact on their pocketbooks. They understood that their real wages had gone up about $6,000 annually compared to a reduction of real wages after inflation with the Biden administration. And they told us they understood that in the election. So you know, to the Democrats on the committee, they didn't believe you last time, and they're not going to believe you now. So what I'd suggest is that we find ways to work together, because I do agree that there's a number of things I heard from the Democrat side of the aisle here today that I agree with, and one is I'm concerned about the debt. And we ought to be sure that when we're doing the extension of these tax cuts, that we are implementing policies that grow the economy. You can't change our fiscal trajectory that we're on, which isn't going to end well, without strong economic growth policies, and I think we could agree on a lot of that. And then otherwise, we should have corresponding cuts in spending to offset the cost of any tax increases or tax extensions that are not covered with additional revenue through economic growth. I think there's a lot of areas for us to work together. We should do that. We should do what's right for the American people. But these tired arguments about what happened with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as I said, they didn't believe you then, and they're not going to believe you today as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Chu, you are recognized.